Crash is a prayer that I prayed when I was trying to decide whether I was going to remain a pastor and a wife, whether I was going to be a good pastor's daughter and, kind of sit in that space, which was my comfort zone. And so I started, just praying and asking God for something new. At the time, my mom was very ill, and after pastoring for so many years, in her heart, she felt like it was my responsibility to continue her legacy, as far as following in her footsteps in ministry, the way that it looked for her. And so it was really hard to make the decision to say, after 20 plus years, I'm retiring from pastoring. There's something more that I feel that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I didn't want to break my mom's heart. I didn't want to break my dad's heart at the time. But I knew that I had to move on. I had to get into a space where I could become me. There's so many times where when you live in that space in church systems, in any system that conditions you to not be yourself, to be what the people want to hear, what the people want to see. When you're in those spaces, sometimes you don't even know who you are. And I didn't. I didn't know who I was. I knew who my parents were. Everybody knew who my parents were. But I didn't know who I was. And suppressing myself, suppressing my injuries, suppressing, some of the things that would happen that were so injurious to my heart in those spaces, dealing with church people, church people having to deal with me not knowing who I was. I looked the part because that's all I knew. And so you kind of fall into line with what is expected of you. But as I started to move out and say, something, I need health. I want to move into health. That was a huge thing for me. I just wanted to be healthy, mentally healthy. I didn't want to continue in looking the part, looking good at, women's conferences. We killing it. We in the building, you know what I mean? But that building became a coffin for the real me. And with that building being my coffin, going there every single day, it started to feel suffocating. And, it looked good for everyone else, and everyone else was crying and, being delivered, and some people were healed. I've seen many amazing healings in my years of being in ministry in that way. But although it was so good for everyone else, it was killing me. It was literally killing me when I, started to make moves and say, I don't want to be in this space any longer. It was kind of like, it was rough. People had so much to say. You know, it seemed like I was betraying in some instances. I was not able to, share my narrative of what was going on. And so I spent a lot of time just trying to heal, heal from the years of injuries that I received, just battle scars being in that space. But then I also spent many, many years just trying to heal from the reactions of people who were upset that I needed to heal. It was kind of weird because sometimes people get mad because you're making choices for your own life. A lot of people didn't know that I was literally not just retiring, but I was fleeing for my livelihood. I was running so that I could go and get healing. Not running from my call, because my call was in front of me. My call was not behind me in a pulpit. My call was in front of me, but I hadn't even tapped into that because I was so busy pastoring, being the person that people expected me to be, the person that people enjoyed me as, the person that kept people comfortable with me. In those spaces, a lot of times you have to be what makes people comfortable. And even though you're wearing different clothes than your parents before you did, you have, more cameras and more video screens, and you have better, worship backdrops. You're still doing the same thing if you don't actually find who you are. And so Crash was all about me finding who I am. And so when I let this prayer out, it was the first time that I actually had an opportunity to pray in a way where my heart was crying to God that didn't involve anything that had to do with church, people coming in from the north, the south, the east, like all of that. It wasn't about God, give us better, children's church workers. It was more of God. I've been in a space for so many years. I had been a pastor for 20 plus years. I had been a wife for 20 plus years and lost myself completely. Didn't know what my dreams were any longer. My creativity, my imagination was condensed to whatever I could come up with for the church play. Like there was so much more that I felt that I needed to tap into. And I knew that I could not do that in a box. But when I got out of the box, I realized that the box was still inside of me. So it took some time of discovery, healing, times of not having enough money. Kids are eating chicken nuggets and noodles today, and that was really hard for me because I was so a Whole Foods mom the entire time that I was pastoring, so here we were eating stuff that we had never really, it wasn't our thing, so my level of living was completely downgraded so that I could discover what was in my DNA. It wasn't easy, but we did get closer together. We learned each other, the intimacy amongst myself with my children, that increased. I was able to speak my children's language more. Why? Because I had tapped into the real me, and Pastor Mom wasn't coming to the conversation anymore. So it was not it hasn't been an easy journey. We've gone through some trying times. We've gone through loss. We've gone through suicide threats in our family. There was so much that has gone on, but I do not regret praying the prayer and asking God for more. It took me years before I could talk about these things, before I could, just kind of freely say what was going on in my heart, because I was so afraid to offend others. I was like literally trapped in the fear of offending other people. I didn't want to harm other people. I didn't want to throw my church family or my family under the bus. So I was afraid. I was literally afraid to share a story that belonged to me because I didn't want to make anyone else look bad. But that was never the intention. The intention was to break out of what is normal. It was to go beyond and see that there's more to life than these four walls. And there's more to life than just following the same cycles that people lay out for you.